So now it's time for Jack. We welcome Jack on stage, Turbine. The stage is yours.
All right. Oh, wow. Cool. Perfect. Everybody can hear me? Okay. Yes. Sweet. Hi, I'm Jack. I'm the head of special projects at Turbine, which basically means I do whatever they need me to do. And today that is giving presentations at AthensDAO. So I'm just going to give y'all an overview of what Turbine is and why you should join on some of our classes. Full disclosure, someone else was supposed to give this presentation, so I'm going to be seeing the slides basically when you're seeing them. So if I'm a little slow and jet lagged, that's why. But what are we, actually I helped make this, so never mind. So what are we here to do? Our number one goal is solving the Solana talent gap. If you go to any protocol and you were like, hey, are you hiring? They probably say yes, because there is way more demand than there is supply for Solana. And the reason for that is because the barrier of entry for crypto, and especially Solana, is a lot higher than it is for something like AI, where you can find 1 million courses by Google and stuff online. Crypto is a lot more hyper-specific. It's evolving way faster. So you might need a little more hand-holding. And that's what we're here to do, is we want to hold your hand when you're coming in and continue to hold it as you're in Solana. So what is Turbine? We do a bunch of different things, but we like to work hard, play hard. That's kind of the general of what you can get here. We like to be intense, like we move fast. And if you the idea here compared to maybe some other classes is like, we want to teach to the top 10%, and that will inspire everyone else to kind of catch up and make it there. And we want to be professional. Our whole goal is to get you a job, and you have to be professional to get a job, even in crypto, where you can wear shorts and a t-shirt and give a presentation. Still got to be a little bit professional, but we keep it fun. It's great. For example, Leo, who's going to talk to you later, he actually works at Metaplex now. He was one of my teachers when I first joined Turbine. And it was great because he just liked to make fun of me. And it was a lot of fun. And it made it so that I kind of remembered everything. And again, kind of like that, we like to make it interactive. Make it so it's not just, a lecture and you can kind of talk, you can watch the recording. Like, that's a big thing, is people always want us to release our lectures on like the videos and stuff. And it's like, we could do that, but you're missing the whole thing. Like, we want to sit down, we want to open up our coder and just write code together. That's kind of the main thing. It's not just going to be sitting there kind of like, obviously we need to go over theory, but we want to make it so that you're engaged, you're learning. And finally, similar to that, we want to make it effective. Like, if you're not actually writing code and doing the things that you need to do as a professional, you're not going to really learn. So here are some of the classes that we teach. There's a few more, but we're rolling them out later on. Our intro is the builders cohort. That's where Leo had been my t-shirt. That's just come in. I don't know anything really about Solana. I just know I want to learn. And we'll teach you Anchor. And it's, again, they're all intensive, but this was like, I didn't take the builders cohort until I'd been in Solana for about 2 years. I don't think I understood Solana until after I took this course. And it's very intense, but you'll learn a lot. And then from the builders cohort, you can kind of break out into all of these other 4 depending on what you want. So in the advanced cohort, there's kind of 2 classes there. Berg teaches one of them. He'll be teaching parts of them later, I guess tomorrow. But it's either you can get far more advanced into writing Solana programs and kind of walk away from Anchor and just write it in pure Rust, or you can go in, you can learn a lot more about the SVM, which is the Solana virtual machine, which is basically when you're writing a transaction to Solana, it's where that transaction is actually being executed. Things are being moved around, and learning how to make that more efficient. The research program, this one's really cool. It's just like, hey, universities around the world, if you just look at like AI and the budgets, professors, everybody doing AI versus crypto, there's a huge gap. There's not a lot of like boundary pushing research, which really sets an industry or sets the future for an industry. So we're trying to bridge that gap, get people in and just be like, hey, we need to know more about how to get a block time hitting faster and all these other things. Now, I'm not part of the research thing. That's for smarter people. But if that's how you feel, we're trying to make that great. Poseidon, this is very new. This is something incredible. It lets you write Anchor smart contracts instead of in Rust, which is a big, scary language that isn't widely known. Now you can write it in TypeScript, which is one of the most widely used languages in the world, and then it'll compile down and you can still deploy a program on chain. So that's a pretty big lift. Hopefully that's going to lower the barrier of entry. Again, that's kind of one of the big things we're doing. Then finally, there's the front end course. That's my course. Teaching that for the first time now, and it's really just, there's like a talent shortage in crypto, and there's especially a talent shortage in front end because it's the Wild West. I've been here for a while, and it's just like, you're kind of, everybody cares about what's happening on chain and all the other stuff, but it's like, hey, it doesn't really matter if you can't build an app that's actually interacting with it. So it's all about, hey, how can I make a full stack app that will interact with the chain? I can still use it as somebody who's never, I don't even know what a crypto is. I don't know what a Solana is. That's kind of the goal of my classes. I want you to be able, if you've been in crypto, we've been talking about that app that's going to get the first billion users or whatever. That's what I want. I want to make it so it's like, hey, we need to focus on UX, UI, make things that people are actually going to use. So let's talk about the education continuum. Our whole thing is like education never stops. You don't like, the whole idea now, it's like, oh yeah, you go to college, you get your degree, and then you go work. But it's like, well, you actually learn a lot on the job, and you have to constantly adapt. And in something like crypto that's constantly changing, you gotta constantly adapt and relearn. Even when you're at a job, it's like, oh, this whole new thing, like Solana 1.19 comes out, I don't know, say August or something. That changes the whole game. I can't just stay and work and pretend everything's the same. It changes. So we want to work not just with ourselves. We want to work with Super Team, Ryzen, all these other Creed, etc. Work with people to make sure, hey, people have to continue to upskill and learn more. And whether that's with Turbine or another education platform in Solana, doesn't really matter to us. We want to make sure everybody's learning. It's collaborative here. That's kind of democracy, etc. It's like, I don't know. I'm a big believer in working together, and I feel like Silicon Valley, that's kind of where I got my start, is very hyper competitive. We don't necessarily need to be that in crypto. We can work together. So as educators, like one of the first people you interface with, I think it's important to get that ethos across. We can all benefit. We can all make the pie bigger. So let me get more into these cohorts if you actually want to take one. So this is the builders one. This is kind of the foundational cohort. And sorry, this one I'm actually going to be reading a few things. But yeah, we go over a bunch of stuff. The way that it's really done is it's 5 weeks of learning, 3 weeks of building. So you go in, you learn basic Rust, how to build like an escrow, a simple AMM, et cetera, et cetera. And then for the last 3 weeks, you actually build your project. And you can see at the bottom some of the numbers. We win hackathons a lot. That's actually a big thing in Solana. If you don't know, there are, especially Coliseum. Well, it used to be Solana Foundation directly ran them. Now it's Coliseum. But they have hackathons that will be running 3 times a year. And we win them a lot. And those are things that can really jumpstart your career. I've won it twice and started 2 companies. One of them didn't survive. One of them is currently still exists. But yeah, we have over 20 wins and honorable mentions, and that's probably out of date because there was another one recently. But this is really like, if you want to get in and figure it out and make a name for yourself, that's the whole idea of the builders cohort. You can submit, you can get a mention at a hackathon. That's great for your portfolio. But even if not, if you're coming into an interview and it's like, hey, I have a project that I can point to that I built, it's a lot better than just like, hey, I like Solana, I kind of know Rust. It's like, tangible things, that's what really matters. And especially like with crypto recruiting and all that fun stuff, it's not like your normal like 3 rounds of 45-minute interviews where I do some leak code challenge thing. It's not that at all. Everything is like, show me what you're doing. I'm gonna give you something to actually build in our protocol on our front end, back end, whatever. And if you're able to build it, you're hired. If not, whatever. So it's like hands-on is all of our approach, and that's just how the industry works. So we kind of adapt to that. Okay, yeah, so these are the actual steps of it. But yeah, you basically start in, make sure you're good, learn the most basic thing in crypto, which is an escrow. Peeling back the layers, everything in crypto is an escrow. It's whether it's a market or yada, yada, yada. Somebody needs to put money somewhere and that money goes somewhere else. Then going from there, we start to make it more diverse, especially with these capstones. Like, hey, I like DeFi, decentralized finance, or I like gaming. I like DPIN, which is like the actual physical infrastructure. That is kind of where you'll get on your capstone. You can work on a team if you want, and then we'll place you, whether it's with actual people who are at Turbine who have been experts, have them advise for you, and also like get in people that are actually working on this stuff. Like getting in guests and speaking, like with my cohort at least, 50% of the classes are going to have a guest to come in and talk who are industry leaders working on stuff, because why not learn directly from the source? So that's kind of how we do things across our classes. Okay, yes. So for you guys being university graduates or soon to be university graduates, this is a great course for you. You do need to like understand computer science. So at least having 2 to 3 years in your like of professional education at a university, you're in a great spot. We're actually working pretty hard to try and make it so that our classes will be ABET accredited, so that you could actually, as like a junior or a senior, take our classes at a university and get credit for it. So that's kind of the level that we are teaching to. Don't feel scared like, oh, no, I'm not like an industry professional. I can't do that. You can. It's just you got to put the work in, but it's a class unlike anything else. We try to make it so that you can come in and produce and kind of come in at a very different level, whether you're 35 years old, you've been working as a senior staff engineer at Facebook, or if you're just some junior at, I don't know, Duree University and you want to come in and learn a class, level playing field. It's what you put into it, you'll get out of it. So just an overview of what our graduates are. I guess I can fit into all of these things. And honestly, a lot of people, this is something about crypto which is beautiful. Not everybody is like, oh, this is your full-time job. That's like the one thing you're going to do, especially at Turbine. Like most of our teachers, including myself, are like, I work at Turbine, but I'm also founding a company, which might sound weird, but to me, that's kind of the way you want to do things, especially with crypto. Everything changes every 3 weeks. So if you're not actively participating in the ecosystem, whether it's through hackathons, founding a project, et cetera, and continually upskilling, how can I in good faith teach people? Because what I write in my curriculum for this semester, I know for a fact I'm going to have to rewrite everything next semester because we're switching from Solana Web3.js to Web3.js 2.0. And so I'm going to have to learn all of that, rebuild, probably do a project, and then I can use that project to teach my students. And that's kind of how we do everything. It's like we have to learn ourselves before we can even teach it. So we're always constantly in the ecosystem, and it's a family. Like that's, as before with AthensDAO, Dean's List, a lot of these DAOs, like we want to be a family. The personal connection is super important. So that's kind of what we want to do. Like, for example, I'm going to keep referencing Leo. Leo hasn't worked at Turbine for, I don't know, like 6 months at least or something, but I still love the guy. I'm still shouting him out. I still reference him in my classes. And it's just like, that's who we are. We're a family. And it's like, some people leave, some people come back in. Doesn't really matter. Like, we're all here to make each other better. So yeah, if you want to help with that, just go to turbine.com. It'll say Q1 applications. It should say 2. I haven't made that update yet, but I might do that right now on my phone after this. But yeah, you can apply to Q2 right now, and they'll start March-ish. Oh, wait, there's actually another slide. Okay, yeah. I'm going to leave this one because this one actually has the stuff. But yeah, come to Turbine if you like relaxed classes where people just kind of show up and do, and that's kind of the vibe. And honestly, a lot of crypto is like that. It's very unstructured, and you just have to kind of come in and figure out what's going on. So at least when I teach classes, I like to kind of go in blind and be like, I'm going to have to relearn this with you guys, because if I show you how I go, and I've been in here, I know my process, you can learn that process and go. And I know with Berg, with builders, everybody, it's very similar to that. We're not just like, oh, this is the curriculum, this is a thing. It's like, if we need to adapt, if Blinks were released 3 days ago, okay, we're giving a Blinks lecture tomorrow. That's what we did, 6 months ago? And when Solana Web 2.0 actually pops out, I might have to change my curriculum next week. And that's just what it's going to be. So we keep the nose to the grindstone and make sure we're giving you the most up-to-date information. But yeah, that's Turbine. It's a great time. And if you want to join, the door's always open.
Hello. Hey, you have a few minutes for some questions?
Yes, for sure.
So I want to ask first, you mentioned 2 hackathon wins that you had. Which are the 2 projects?
So Lancer, which no longer exists, that was a escrow as a service, specifically looking to help freelancers, because I have worked as a freelancer both outside of and in crypto, and I was like, hey, there's this very simple thing that an escrow, and this can protect people. So Lancer was the first one. The other one, if you've heard of Banger, which is just tokenizing and putting tweets on chain, it was Harry and I. So the guy who is still the founder of that, Harry, he was one of my engineers at Lancer, and we stayed in touch. And then he was like, hey, I'm going to put tweets on chain. I'm like, sounds like a good idea. And he's like, you want to build it with me? And I was like, sure. So we built that. I'm still an advisor there. But yeah, that's the 2.
And I want to ask also, you focus on front end design. What do you think is the biggest leap that somebody working in non-Web3 would need to take from a UI UX perspective?
I would say the biggest thing to me is wallets and how those work, because you're replacing sort of a username and password with a public key and a private key. But also kind of the biggest thing here, and this is how I built it with Lancer when I worked at Cypher, we did it there as well, is you have to think about your users, because there's really 2 users that you'll have for any crypto app. There are the people that know what a wallet is. I have a Phantom wallet, I can sign and do all of that. And then there's the people who are just like, I don't know, I want to gamble and make money, but I don't want to store this weird thing that's 12 words, blah, 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 blah. That's where you need to have a social sign-on. So really figuring out who your user is, whether you want to make it for crypto natives, people who don't know what crypto is, or both, figuring out what that user is, and then figuring out how you use wallets and interacting with the chain, et cetera, for that type of user. I would say that's the biggest weird thing that always seems to change and has a lot of gatyas.
Hey there, thanks a lot for this talk. Super interesting stuff. Just a very simple question. Where can people follow you?
Yeah. Oh, me? Jack?
I'd like to have the alpha.
Yeah. I have almost no internet presence. I'm very in person. I think I have a Twitter. I think it's @SturtJack.
Sturt_Jack.
Sure. That's what it is. I think my last tweet was
Taki.
2019 or something, but I think you can follow me there. But yeah, a lot of what I do is I'm very in person in coming to conferences and stuff. But eventually, one of my many things I'm doing is building up what's called the menagerie, which is a bunch of different stuff. Part of it is I want to make a professional job board and all of that. And so when that's ready, that's where you can really find me. But for now, I'm kind of just a ghost. Any other questions?
So one of the things I know about Turbine is that if you graduate, job placement, and then that's kind of how Turbine makes money, from what I understand. Do you envision a point at which some of the components of Turbine become a DAO?
Yes, for sure. It's more of a question of implementation than anything at this point. It's internal discussions of this have certainly happened. That's another menagerie thing. But yes, it will definitely be DAOified. It's just figuring out like, because with a DAO, you want to have either a token or an NFT. And really the question is like, okay, if we have an NFT or a token, what is the utility and stuff that we want to add to it? So it's more of like the actual implementation details than anything. But yes, we do the DAO. I mean, that's how DAOs are. And like, we do operate DAO-like. It's just we don't have like a token and all of that. Like within the people who work on Turbine is very decentralized in decision making, and we make sure that we listen to our students. It's just we don't have the token and stuff yet, but eventually we will.
Okay, so that's alpha.
Maybe, I don't know. I might be lying, but I mean, we should at some point, and it'll probably fall to me to implement that.
Are there any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Of course, thank you.